and the green flag is shown. Here we go. Here's your starting grid for the E20 Junior, Senior and Masters final here at Karting Genk. So, Dames will lead the field from pole position. Mats-Johan Overhoff getting second in the pre-final will be alongside him. Then it's Tomáš Ibsen and Emma Svensson representing Poland and Sweden. The grid due to be Andreas Martis and Gaz Poldermans. Shout out to Ryan Michalak on YouTube saying, great to see my longtime friend Gaz Poldermans in E20, who is a big fan, by the way, folks. Well, he actually explained to me earlier on, he's wearing a tribute helmet to Damon Hill, who in his own right was 1996 Formula One world champion. So we also have Rainer Born and Hector Ramirez, the eldest driver on the grid, 67 years of age, based out of Santiago in Chile. Antoine Lemieux will lead the E20 junior field from pole position in the 604 representing Canada. Alongside Antoine on the front row will be Christopher Holst representing Switzerland in the 602, and rounding out the 12-strong grid will be France's Arthur Lorimier and Canada's Frédéric Lemieux. So the race will be 9 minutes plus an additional lap, as we are just waiting for our last competitor to make their way around. That is Mr. Andreas Martis. And he will actually line up at the back of the Senior Masters field. 9 minutes on the timer, red lights on the gantry, and we are off and away for the E20 final. Good start by the pole sitter. Gaz Poldermans going around the outside of Tomáš Ibsen. Oh no, sorry, there was Emma Svensson. My apologies there. She got through to get through for second, for third, and Mats-Johan Overhoff has gotten through to take the race lead. Of course, now every single driver is on the W5 wet weather tyres. So Mats-Johan Overhoff taking the initial race lead. Andreas Martis making his way through into turn 3 is now, problems there for Christopher Holst on the start phase, and that means that Arthur Lorimier has managed to get the jump on the Swiss driver, and Holst has just spun it coming into turn number 2. Now Mats-Johan Overhoff, I'm sure that his fan club are watching on YouTube if they're not actually here. There was a bit of a big showing of Super Mats t-shirts, as now Emma Svensson looking towards the inside of Tomáš Ibsen, going through into turn number 10. As Dames gets through on the inside of Mats-Johan Overhoff, but was sideways, lost traction, and Mats-Johan Overhoff keeps the lead at this moment. So out of the final corner, it's Mats-Johan Overhoff that leads the way after just the opening lap. Second, it's Dames. Third is Tomáš Ibsen. Then it's Emma Svensson. Rainer Born, in the meantime, is leading the way in the Senior Masters class. Hector Ramirez is behind Dutch journalist Gaz Poldermans, as a different line taken by Mats-Johan Overhoff. A little bit of a touch from behind as he tries to go around the outside, and he's sideways, and he holds it. Oh, dearie me, but Dames, a little bit of a touch from front to rear bumper. They're going to be using the curbs, are some of the drivers, to just try and help the kart rotate. It is slow in, fast out, but Mats-Johan Overhoff was lighting up the rear tyres like a good one, coming out of turn number 6 and onto the Europolan. And now Tomáš Ibsen trying to go alongside Mats-Johan Overhoff on the run down to turn number 10, but can't get through for second position. Emma Svensson takes a different line, as now Tomáš Ibsen looking towards the outside, coming out of turn number 11 on Mats-Johan Overhoff. Dames leads the way, going through into turn 12. Lap 2 in the books, and it is Dames that now leads the way. Tomáš Ibsen sets the fastest lap of the race of a 1 minute 12.071. Rainer Born leading the way in the Senior Masters classification ahead of Gaz Poldermans, Hector Ramirez and Andreas Martis. Quite a bit away, but there is the battle for E20 Junior. as everything is closed up between the top four. The conditions are very, very tricky out there. So traction will be at a premium. Mats-Johan Overhoff drops to third place as Tomas Ibsen looking to try and get past Days Dams for the race lead. They make their way out of turn number 8 and into turn 9. Days Dams goes a bit sideways. That opens the door for Tomas Ibsen, who instantly capitalises and now takes the lead with 5 minutes and 40 on the timer still to go. And at the minute, E20 Senior Masters, I think, has a new race leader because it's Cas Podiums from the Netherlands. And he leads. He's overtaken Heine Born. Heine Born, previous time, had a difficult lap, was nearly 2/10 of a second, 2 seconds slower than Podiums. So a different skill set with driving these karts, as there is the battle for the lead in E20 Junior as Christopher Holst gets past Antoine Lemieux for the race lead. You know, they're both going to be using the button on the steering wheel, the boost button, 5-second maximum deployment, and there goes Antoine Lemieux up the inside through turn 2 on the Swiss driver, who also sports the German national flag on his race suit, as Holst was looking towards the outside coming out of turn number 3. Lemieux holding station in the race lead. Arthur Lorimier is catching them up, though. A little bit wide coming through into turn number 6, but to allow the better delivery of power through applying the throttle. Holst gets a better run coming out of turn 6. But now it's all changed. Tomas Ibsen has lost the lead. It's now back in the hands of Days Dams. Emma Svensson now up into P3. Tomas Ibsen looking to get past the 741 into turns 1 and 2. It was just over 2.5 tenths of a second between first and second place. Three minutes and 50 on the timer, plus an additional lap. It was a little bit wide as wide from Days Dams as he tried to scrabble for traction coming out of turn 6 and onto the Ullapalan. Better traction purchase for both Mats-Johan Overhoff and Tomas Ibsen. A little bit of a run wide there on turn 8 for Mats-Johan Overhoff, but he keeps ahead of Tomas Ibsen for the minute. And all 4 senior E20 drivers were covered by the closest they've been all weekend long, nearly 9 tenths of a second. So just over 3 minutes remaining, and Days Dams still leads the way, but right behind him, 3.5 tenths of a second cover the top 3. Ibsen looking for the move up the inside for P2. Overhoff swinging it wide through turn 2 to keep with Days Dams. He was within the window of opportunity in these slippery conditions. But now Ibsen looking for a move up the inside through turn 5. Overhoff shuts the door. And Ibsen gets the run coming out. And again, the same thing happens. That's twice this race that's happened to Mats-Johan Overhoff. Ibsen getting up the inside and Overhoff just lighting up the rear tyres, ending up sideways. And now he's got Emma Svensson for company. And Ibsen just had to hold on to the brakes there coming through turn number 9. But look behind. It looks like that Andreas Martis has now been able to start from the back of the Senior Masters grid, and he is closing in on Emma Svensson. Around the final corner. Look how close the top 5 are, as Martis will try to look for the inside on Svensson coming through the final turn. Can't get through for 4th overall, but stays in the lead of Masters. And there's the move for the race lead. Andreas Martis around the outside of Emma Svensson through into turn 2, and she holds on to 4th. So Tomas Ibsen leads the way, and he's got a comfortable gap now with 1.5 minutes remaining. Andreas Martis makes his way through past Emma Svensson. Now he's going to try and line up an overtake on Mats-Johan Overhoff, and he decides not to go for it. And then through into turn 7. Ibsen has probably the best part of a... Oh, now Andreas Martis through on Mats-Johan Overhoff. Now he's going with an unconventional racing line. He's a very experienced racer in his own right, and now he slingshots past Taze Dams around the outside at turn number 10, as we've got 60 seconds to go. And now he's going for the overall race lead. Andreas Martis possibly looking to put a number on Thomas Ibsen, going through the exit of turn number 12. 2 more laps remain. 2.5 tenths separate Ibsen and Martis for the overall race victory. And Martis is actually the youngest. Now he's going around the outside of turn number 4, and he's off the track. Andreas Martis cuts the grass, brings up a lot of spray, but kept the throttle planted in. Very well held there, Andreas. And now that's allowed Taze Dams and Mats-Johan Overhoff to close on in. But that has given Tomasz Ibsen from Poland the advantage that the 756 has wanted. But Martis is closing in. He's now going to look to the inside through turn 10. Ibsen shuts the door. Timer has expired. 1 more lap remains after this. Andreas Martis sweeps to the outside through turn 12. Ibsen says, no, you don't. And now the undercut happens. Andreas Martis takes the overall race lead with 1 lap remaining. And Ibsen, when you look at it this way, is 29 years Andreas Martis' junior. And Martis now strides away into the distance by a comfortable margin. Ibsen at the moment is pulling away from the rest of the field as Kaz Palderman's round the outside of Emma Svensson. And Andreas Martis, I've been very reliably informed, is the only driver that chanced it on slick tyres. Martis makes his way through into turn number 10 for the final time. That gap is at least 2 seconds. So how's about this one for a different story in the history of Project E20? A senior Masters driver by the name of Andreas Martis from Germany wins overall and wins Senior Masters, and Tomasz Ibsen wins and is jubilant in seniors. The disappointment clear to see for Taze Dams and Mats-Johan Overhoff. Emma Svensson edges out Kaz Paldermans. Paldermans will hit the runner-up step of the podium ahead of Heine Born, and the run to the line in juniors, it did not go to Canada, it went to Switzerland. Christopher Holst is your E20 junior final winner. But Andreas Martis, the only driver deciding to go onto slicks, and look at his win, 4.4 seconds. Struggled early, but the tyres came up to temp, and he's done it. And there we go. The celebrations will begin. Hopefully I'll share a drink with him a little bit later on. Tomasz Ibsen takes second and wins in seniors. Taze Dams, third on the road, will hit the runner-up step of the podium, and it is a podium for Mats-Johan Overhoff in seniors. Emma Svensson will round out the top 4 in seniors, ahead of Kaz Paldermans, who will hit the runner-up step, his first time in a competitive situation like this, and the Dutchman hits the podium. Hector Ramirez will round out the top 3 representing Chile, with Rainer Born finishing in 8th and rounding out the Senior Masters grid, with Christopher Holst, Antoine Lemieux, Arthur Lorimier and Frédéric Lemieux rounding out the grid. Well, it was coming down to that point that the first of 5 finals would get things underway to conclude the 2023 season opener for the Euro Trophy. Kaz Paldermans being guided and spannered by the electric renegade Ellis Spezia. It was a good start from the front as Taze Dams tried to close off the door for Mats-Johan Overhoff very, very early indeed. But a switchback move from the German, the 755, managed to get through, heading into turn number 3, with Emma Svensson making a very good start, the Swede making it up to 3rd place overall. As the lights went out, a problem for Christopher Holst meant the Swiss driver would have to start a little bit further back, as Antoine Lemieux sprinted off into the race lead with Arthur Lorimier just behind. Holst would then have a further spin, but that would not be the end of the story for the Swiss driver. Max Endicott looking on, wearing a different crash helmet for the one that we've seen earlier on this week. Tomasz Ibsen would then be able to take advantage of a rare mistake from Thijs Dams to get up the inside through turn number 9 to take the overall race lead. Kaz Poldemans at that point was leading in E20 Senior Masters. Antoine Lemieux and Christopher Holst were battling for the race lead and ultimately the victory in the final for E20 Juniors. Christopher Holst would make his way through past the Canadian, but then straight away, Lemieux, using the boost and the slipstream, managed to get on through. And there was the moment, that was why Tomasz Ibsen lost the lead, went sideways and off onto the grass, kicking up the dirt, and that allowed Dams, Overhoff and Svensson to get on through. But as that all transpired, Ibsen then took the race lead back off of Thijs Dams, and there was Andreas Martis on slicks, getting faster as the race progressed, as he closed in on the quartet in front. And there was the moment that Andreas Martis had a bit of a scare in his own right. Grass cutting, rally crossing, fully electrically charged, a bit like Nitro RX at the moment over in the United States. But then this was the moment where Andreas Martis went, right, you might be 29 years my junior, but I'm going to get you. And he did, coming through turn number 12. And Andreas Martis did the Jensen button trick. Only went on slicks, the only driver to do so. And as he walked away into the distance with a comfortable stroll, everyone else was battling away. Emma Svensson trying to have Kaz Poldemans round the outside, but Andreas Martis took the overall win, and it was a win for Tomasz Ibsen from Poland in E20 Seniors, and the juniors, the top honours would go to Switzerland's Christopher Holst.